In the top stories, explosion at Needmust power plant causes island-wide blackout. St. Lucia's Prime Minister expresses condolences in connection with second COVID-19 death, and Storm Eta triggers flooding mudslides in Central America. Hello and welcome to the ZIZ Midday Newscast. Today is Thursday, November 12, 2020. I'm your presenter, Shaira Flanders. Nationally, an explosion occurred at the Needmust power plant at about 7:30 this morning, which resulted in an island-wide power outage. Firefighters have responded and extinguished the blaze. No injuries were reported. Technicians are in the process of diagnosing the cause of the explosion and conducting a damage assessment. Minister of Public Infrastructure Honorable Sean Richards arrived at the plant and was led on a tour by General Manager of Skilec, Clement Jomo Williams. Up until news time, no restoration commenced. Restoration work will most likely begin later in the evening. Skilec is asking the public to remain patient during this time. In other news, the police are investigating the circumstances surrounding the death of a man that occurred on November 9th, 2020. According to reports, close to midday on Monday, the Criminal Investigation Department was informed of a death at the JNF General Hospital. Officers responded, and investigations so far have revealed that 44-year-old Leslie Small of Cunningham Village, Cayon, was on a building in Half Moon Frigate Bay working on the roof when he fell off the building. Police say Mr. Small was taken to the hospital via private vehicle. He was pronounced dead upon arrival following an examination by the doctor at the hospital. An autopsy has been scheduled to determine the exact cause of death. Investigations into the matter are ongoing. Persons with information about this incident are asked to contact the Criminal Investigation Department at 465-2241, their nearest police station, or call the crime hotline at 707. And as we wrap up local news, episode 1 of ZIZ's Sugar Fix radio show aired live via ZIZ Radio and TV on Wednesday, November 11th. Carnival stakeholders, including committee members, sponsors, and artists, will appear on the weekly program to share live updates, announcements, and all you need to know about Sugar Mass 49 celebrations throughout the Carnival season. During the first edition, host of the show, Clement Monarch Ogaro, was joined by guest, chair of the St. Kitts Nevis National Carnival Committee, Shannon Hawley. Ogaro used the opportunity to discuss virtual Calypso tents, which are set to begin this weekend.
November 14th, 8 p.m., the Legends Calypso tent kicks off the 2020 Sugar Mass 49 Carnival season. Featuring, of course, the reigning Calypso King, King Socrates, Lady Diva, Brown Sugar, Hot Rod, Neglector, Jack Spanner, Mighty Kinter, and a host of others. And of course, that show is virtual, and you should be able to get all the show on ZIZ Radio TV, and also live on Facebook and YouTube, also on the Carnival's Facebook and YouTube page as well. That's this coming Saturday.
He said persons can expect the Proud Sounds Calypso tent to be held the following weekend. Both Calypso tents would then rotate each weekend until November 28th. Thereafter, Calypso eliminations will be placed on the 12th to 13th December. This year, there will be no Calypso semifinals. This means that 16 Calypsonians will head straight into the finals and compete with one song. Sugar Fix airs live every Wednesday at 4:30 p.m. on the Jump Off Show with Chico. We now move to news on the regional scene. St. Lucia's Prime Minister Alan Chastanet has expressed condolences to the family and friends of St. Lucia's second COVID-19 fatal victim. On Wednesday, Chastanet wrote on his official Facebook page, quote, "On behalf of the government of St. Lucia, I extend our sincerest condolences to the family and friends of this esteemed gentleman," end quote. He reminded the public that the fight against the coronavirus is also meant to protect loved ones, particularly those with underlying conditions, and not just, quote, ourselves. The first COVID-19 fatal victim in St. Lucia was a 47-year-old man who died on Tuesday, November 10th. In other news on the regional scene, on Tuesday, Jamaica's Minister of Agriculture and Fisheries, Floyd Green, announced in Parliament that direct support will be provided for farmers impacted by Tropical Storm Eta and Zeta. He says financial assistance will come from members of parliaments in the worst affected parishes. Here's more.
Minister of Agriculture and Fisheries Floyd Green updated the House on Tuesday, speaking on the recent impact on farmers caused by the inclement weather. Minister Green highlighted that an estimated $2.5 billion in crops have been lost by over 14,000 farmers.
2,955 hectares of crops have been lost, with an economic value of some $2.5 billion, affecting over 14,181 farmers.
Green also added that the evaluation for infrastructural damage is currently ongoing. However, there is a preliminary estimation of $140 million. He says the farmers are not defeated in spite of the setbacks, and they should be acknowledged as they play an integral role in feeding the nation.
One of the takeaways from my tours is that they are not daunted. Despite the challenges, they are willing to go back out into the field and to do what they love. In fact, Madam Speaker, our farmers are our food heroes and should be celebrated.
The minister outlined 3 categories in which funds will be allocated to members of parliament to provide direct support to farmers in the least and the most affected parishes.
We will provide $500,000 to 20 MPs who have been categorized as urban MPs. We will provide $1 million to 20 MPs who have been categorized as rural MPs. And we will provide $1.5 million each to 21 MPs in the hardest hit areas.
Javine McLean, CVM Live.
On the international scene, over a period of 4 days, Tropical Storm Eta drenched a huge area of Central America from Panama to southern Mexico. In Tabasco on the Mexican Gulf Coast, floods left at least 9 dead and thousands homeless. Al Jazeera's Manuel Rapallo reports.
As the floodwaters begin to recede, the alarming scale of the devastation left by Hurricane Eta in Central America is becoming apparent. More than a week after Eta slammed into the region as a powerful Category 4 hurricane, rescue workers in central Guatemala continue to search for people trapped under mudslides and debris.
There are thousands of people in shelters. There are already more than 20,000, 37 damaged bridges, 15 completely demolished.
In Honduras, one of the countries worst affected by the storm, thousands have been displaced. Many have lost everything and are now forced to sleep on the side of the road. Some parts of the country are still underwater, complicating the ongoing relief efforts.
There's over 100 roads that have been damaged, so there's no passage. There's, I think, over 70 communities that are completely blocked, which means no food in, no food out, no people in, no people out.
Over a period of 4 days, Eta drenched a huge area of Central America, from Panama to southern Mexico. In Tabasco, on the Mexican Gulf Coast, floods left at least 9 dead and forced thousands of evacuations.
The river came with tremendous pressure. It was overflowing and quickly flooded the house. Some of our neighbors came together and grabbed gas tanks, others a stove, and some picked dishes, pots, and some mattresses. That's sort of what we are using now.
As Eta tracked northward, torrential rains caused flooding in Cuba as well, forcing the evacuations of some 9,000 people. And it's not over yet. In Florida's Tampa Bay area, a hurricane watch has been issued, residents bracing themselves for Eta's heavy winds, storm surge, and flooding rains. Manuel Rapallo, Al Jazeera.
A UK inquiry scrutinizing undercover police tactics is set to begin. It is expected to hear evidence 5 years after it was set up and will look at how undercover officers spied on hundreds of left-wing organizations. Al Jazeera's Charlie Angela has more.
Back in 1993, Lois Austin led a protest against the far-right British National Party. As head of Youth Against Racism, she wanted an end to racist attacks in London. Theirs was a peaceful group, but police decided to infiltrate them.
I found out in 2010 that I had been spied on by Peter Francis for about 4 or 5 years. Peter Francis was the chief whistleblower. So he was an undercover police officer working for the SDS for many years.
The SDS, or Special Demonstration Squad, was set up in 1968 when a wave of protests against the Vietnam War caught the police by surprise. Deciding intelligence was needed to control future demonstrators, an elite and highly secret squad within the Metropolitan Police was created. Over more than 4 decades, at least 139 police officers were given fake identities to closely monitor more than 1,000 political groups.
Pretty much anybody that posed any form of challenge to kind of state or corporate interests. Everything from environmental campaigners, opponents of the arms trade, animal rights activists, anti-racist campaigners.
To gain access to these groups, some officers started intimate relationships with female members. Then after a few years, when the deployment was over, they disappeared from their lives.
That threw my life completely into disarray because, as you can imagine, if you've spent 2 years with somebody and you think you know them really well, and then you discover that actually, they were spying on you, or they didn't exist. He's a person who no longer exists. I didn't know even his name. The implications that has for all your other relationships, it destroys your ability to trust.
I acknowledge that these relationships were a violation of the women's human rights.
The Metropolitan Police apologised and compensated 7 women 5 years ago, but it was only through their own research that the undercover officers' identities were revealed.
Police are still refusing to release the full list of organisations that were spied on, believed to be more than 1,000, or the cover names of the police officers who infiltrated them. The core participants hope this inquiry will force them to reveal those details and answer the question who in the government sanctioned these operations. Charlie Angela, Al Jazeera, London.
And now for the weather. Present weather is cloudy with scattered showers. A moderate breeze of 50 miles per hour is coming from the east-northeast. Current temperature is 26 degrees Celsius, that's 78 degrees Fahrenheit. Today there will be mostly cloudy skies at first, with periods of light rain mixed with brief showers. Thereafter, a gradual reduction in cloudiness and rainfall can be expected. Tonight, there will be partly cloudy skies with a 20% or a slight chance of a brief shower. An area of disturbed weather in the Caribbean Sea will maintain lingering cloudiness and light rain across the BVI and the Leeward Islands initially, with a gradual reduction in clouds and rainfall activity later into tonight. Sunset today will be at 5:36 p.m. and the sun is expected to rise tomorrow at 6:15 a.m. And that brings us to the end of the ZIZ Midday Newscast. Join us this evening for these stories and more in detail. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am your presenter, Shaira Flanders. Have a good one.